Driverly.com, unlimited drama series.
The security system chimed at 2:47 a.m., and I knew my marriage was over. I'd been lying awake for 3 hours, staring at the ceiling of our perfectly renovated bedroom, listening to the smart home I'd spent 2 years building hum its electronic lullabies. Motion sensors, door locks, camera feeds, all feeding data to the tablet beside my bed, all telling me stories I didn't want to hear. Olivia's BMW pulled into our driveway with the careful precision of someone trying not to wake the neighbors, or her husband. Through the bedroom window, I watched her sit in the driver's seat for a full minute, checking her reflection in the rearview mirror, smoothing her hair, adjusting her lipstick she hadn't been wearing when she left for her client dinner 6 hours ago. My name is Brian Keller, and I'm what you might call a recovering optimist. 38 years old, owner of a small but successful home automation business, and apparently the kind of husband who installs security cameras everywhere except where they might actually catch his wife cheating. The front door opened with the soft beep of our keypad lock. Olivia's heels clicked across the hardwood floors I'd refinished myself, each step a tiny percussion of betrayal. I heard her pause in the kitchen, probably checking her phone, probably deleting messages. When she finally slipped into bed 20 minutes later, she smelled like expensive cologne and lies. "How was dinner?" I asked quietly. She stiffened beside me. "Fine. Long, boring client stuff. You wouldn't understand." There it was, the casual dismissal that had become her signature move over the past year. Brian wouldn't understand. Brian's just the guy who fixes things. Brian's not sophisticated enough for the corporate world. "Which client?" I pressed. "The Morrison account. We went to that new place downtown, Sapphire." I nodded in the darkness, filing away the lie. The Morrison account had been closed for 3 months. I knew because Olivia had complained about losing the commission back in February. "Must have been some dinner. Your dress is inside out." Bonds. The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Then she laughed, that brittle sound she made when she was caught but not ready to admit it. "God, Brian, you're paranoid. I changed in the restaurant bathroom. The zipper was sticking." Wood. Another lie, smooth as silk and just as transparent, but I didn't call her on it. Not yet. Instead, I lay there listening to her breathing slow into the rhythm of fake sleep, planning my next move. By morning, I had a strategy. Olivia left for work at her usual time, 7:30 sharp, kissing my cheek with the mechanical affection of a well-programmed robot. She looked perfect, as always. Blonde hair in a sleek bob. Gray suit that probably cost more than most people's rent. Makeup applied with surgical precision. "Don't wait up tonight," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Team meeting might run late." Bonds. Another one. That's 3 this week. Big project, you know how it is. But I was starting to know exactly how it was. After her BMW disappeared around the corner, I poured myself a second cup of coffee and opened my laptop. The beauty of being married to someone who thinks you're technically incompetent is that they never bother to hide their digital footprints very well. Our shared cell phone account told me everything I needed to know. Text messages to a number I didn't recognize, calls lasting hours, data usage spiking during times when she claimed to be in meetings. The number belonged to Eli Grant, VP of Strategic Development at her company. I'd met Eli exactly once, at last year's Christmas party. Tall, silver-haired, the kind of man who wore expensive watches and spoke in corporate buzzwords. He'd spent the entire evening making subtle digs about my blue-collar background, while Olivia laughed along. Now I understood why. The really beautiful part was discovering that Olivia had been using our joint credit card to pay for their little rendezvous. Dinner at Sapphire, table for two, $340. Hotel rooms charged as client entertainment. Even lingerie purchases from Victoria's Secret, itemized on statements she thought I never read. My wife was cheating on me with her boss and making me pay for the privilege. I should have been angry, should have been heartbroken. Instead, I felt something much more dangerous. The cold, calculating satisfaction of an engineer who just identified the weak point in a structure. Time to bring the whole thing down. My sister Monica called while I was knee-deep in financial records, her voice crackling through the Bluetooth speaker in my workshop. "You sound weird," she said without preamble. Monica had always been direct, a trait that served her well as head bartender at Finnegan's, the local watering hole where half the town came to drink away their problems. "Define weird, like you're plotting something. What's Olivia done now?" Monica had never liked my wife. She'd been polite at the wedding, supportive during the early years, but I'd caught the eye rolls when Olivia made her little comments about improving me. My sister had a finely tuned radar for bullshit, and Olivia set it off like a fire alarm. What makes you think she's done anything? Because you only get that tone when someone's underestimated you. Remember when Johnson tried to stiff you on that commercial job? You sounded exactly like this. Johnson had ended up paying me double after I documented every building code violation in his strip mall and sent the report to the city inspector. Sometimes the best revenge is just doing your homework. Hypothetically, I said, if someone was cheating on their spouse and using joint assets to fund the affair, what would you do? The line went quiet for a long moment. Then, hypothetically, I'd make sure I had bulletproof evidence before I did anything stupid. Also hypothetically, I'd remember that the best revenge is living well, not going to prison. No prison, just creative problem solving. Brian, whatever you're thinking, be smart about it. Olivia's got connections, money, and a lawyer on speed dial. You've got what? A pickup truck and a toolbox? I've got something better. I've got the truth. After Monica hung up, I spent the rest of the day building my case like I was preparing for a home inspection. Every receipt, every phone record, every suspicious charge got photographed, cataloged, and backed up to 3 different cloud accounts. The security system I'd installed told an even better story. Motion sensors tracking Olivia's movements through the house, timestamps showing her leaving and returning at odd hours, even audio pickups that had caught fragments of whispered phone conversations. I can't keep doing this, Eli. Brian's getting suspicious. Maybe we should cool it for a while. Followed by, no, you're right. He's clueless. He spends all day playing with his little gadgets. He has no idea what real ambition looks like. That last part stung more than the affair itself, not because it was cruel, but because it revealed how completely she'd misjudged me. Olivia saw the work shirts and the calloused hands and assumed she was dealing with someone simple, someone who wouldn't notice, someone who wouldn't fight back. She was about to learn how wrong she was. The breakthrough came when I decided to follow her. Not in some dramatic, high-speed chase, but with the methodical patience of someone who'd spent years troubleshooting complex systems. I knew her patterns, her routes, her habits better than she knew them herself. Thursday evening, team meeting number 4 of the week. I watched from my truck as Olivia's BMW pulled into the parking lot of the Riverside Hotel, the same place she'd charged to our credit card 3 times in the past month. Eli's Tesla was already there, sleek and black in the evening light. I took photos of both license plates, the timestamp on the hotel's digital sign, even the valet who took Olivia's keys with the practiced discretion of someone who'd seen this scene before. They emerged 2 hours later, Olivia's hair slightly mussed, Eli's tie loosened. They kissed goodbye in the parking lot like teenagers, all hands and whispered promises. I followed Eli home to his downtown condo, memorizing the address, the security gate code he punched in, the parking spot where he left his precious Tesla. Information was ammunition, and I was building an arsenal. But the real jackpot came the next morning. Olivia was in the shower when her phone buzzed with a text message. She'd left it on the kitchen counter, face up, protected by nothing more than a 4-digit passcode I'd watched her enter 100 times. The message was from Ashley Chen, her work friend and partner in crime. Eli's wife is getting suspicious. Someone saw you two at Riverside. Maybe time to throw Brian under the bus? Domestic trouble would explain the hotel charges if anyone asks. My blood went cold. It was one thing to discover an affair. It was another to realize they were planning to frame me for it. I screenshotted the message and several others, then carefully placed the phone back exactly where she'd left it. When Olivia emerged from the bathroom, I was reading the newspaper like nothing had happened. Coffee's fresh, I said without looking up. Thanks. I might be late again tonight. Big presentation tomorrow. Of course you will be. Something in my tone made her pause. She studied my face in that calculating way she had looking for cracks in my facade. Is everything okay? You've been acting strange lately. Strange how? I don't know. Distant, like you're not really here. I folded the newspaper and met her eyes. Maybe I'm just tired of pretending everything's fine when it's not. The words hung in the air between us. Olivia's perfectly applied mask slipped for just a moment, and I saw something that might have been fear flicker across her features. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, forget it. Have a good day at work. But she didn't move. She stood there in her designer suit, coffee mug trembling slightly in her manicured hands. And I realized she knew. Maybe not the details, maybe not the extent of what I'd discovered, but she knew the game was changing. Brian, if something's bothering you, we should talk about it. Should we? Because lately, it feels like you think I'm too stupid to have anything worth discussing. I never said that. You didn't have to. She left for work 20 minutes later, but not before I caught her trying to check if I'd moved anything in her home office. The paranoia was setting in, and paranoid people make mistakes. I was counting on it. That afternoon, I paid a visit to Mrs. Daly, our 70-something neighbor, who spent most of her time tending her garden and keeping track of everyone else's business. She was the kind of woman who noticed everything and forgot nothing, a human security camera with opinions. Brian, dear, how lovely to see you. How's that wife of yours? That's actually what I wanted to ask you about. She's been working such long hours lately, and I'm worried about her. Have you noticed anything unusual? Cars in the driveway when I'm not home, that sort of thing? Mrs. Daly's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. She'd been waiting her whole life for someone to ask that question. Well, now that you mention it, there has been a gentleman caller. Drives one of those electric cars. Very handsome, silver hair. He usually comes by on Wednesdays, stays about an hour. Wednesdays? Not like clockwork. Always parks in your spot, bold as brass. I thought it was strange, but I didn't want to pry. Mrs. Daly absolutely lived to pry, but I appreciated her diplomacy. Did you happen to notice what time he usually leaves? Oh, around 3:30, right before you get home from work. Very punctual, I'll give him that. Punctual and stupid. Ely had been using my own house for his affair, parking in my driveway, probably drinking my beer and laughing about what a fool I was. The rage that had been simmering in my chest for weeks finally boiled over. That evening, I was waiting when Olivia came home from her latest team meeting. She found me sitting at the kitchen table, her laptop open in front of me, a stack of printed credit card statements beside it. What are you doing with my computer? Learning about strategic development. Fascinating field. Did you know the Riverside Hotel offers a frequent guest program? You've earned enough points for a free weekend. Her face went white. Brian, I can explain. Can you? Because I'd love to hear how you explain charging hotel rooms to our joint credit card while you're fucking your boss. The word hung between us like a slap. Olivia had always prided herself on being refined, sophisticated. She hated crude language, especially from me. You don't understand. It's not what you think. Really? Because I think you've been screwing Eli Grant for months, using our money to pay for it, and planning to blame me when it all comes out. Did I miss anything? She sat down heavily, the fight going out of her like air from a punctured tire. How long have you known? Does it matter? I never meant for this to happen. It just did. Eli understands me in ways you never could. Understands you? Or just tells you what you want to hear while you're both laughing about the stupid husband who pays for everything? It's not like that. Then what is it like, Olivia? Explain it to me in small words, so my blue-collar brain can follow along. She looked up at me then, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of the woman I'd married. Vulnerable, uncertain, almost human. Then it was gone. Fine. You want the truth? Yes, I'm having an affair. Yes, I love him. And yes, you're exactly as boring and limited as I thought you were. Eli has vision, ambition, sophistication. He's going places. You fix broken things for a living. I do fix broken things, I said quietly. And right now, I'm looking at the most broken thing I've ever seen. The next few days passed in a cold war of silence and forced civility. Olivia moved into the guest bedroom, claiming she needed space to think. I let her have it, along with the illusion that she was controlling the situation. Meanwhile, I was busy preparing for the real confrontation. Monica had been right about one thing. Olivia had connections and resources I couldn't match in a straight fight. But she also had weaknesses, and I'd spent enough time studying systems to know that the smallest vulnerability could bring down the entire structure. Her first weakness was arrogance. She genuinely believed I was too simple to outmaneuver her. Her second weakness was Eli Grant himself. I'd done my research on Olivia's lover, and what I'd found was a man with everything to lose. Married to a prominent attorney, father of 2 kids in private school, member of the country club, deacon at his church. His whole identity was built on respectability, and respectability was fragile. The plan I developed was elegant in its simplicity. No violence, no illegal activity, no dramatic confrontations that could backfire. Just the methodical application of pressure to the weakest points in their carefully constructed lies. It started with a phone call to Eli's office. Grant Strategic Development. This is Eli. Mr. Grant, this is Brian Keller. I think we need to talk. The silence on the other end stretched.
Your ex, the one you said you blocked, 300 messages this month.
He contacted me from.
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
Long enough that I wondered if he'd hung up. I'm sorry, do I know you? I'm Olivia's husband, and I know about the affair. Another pause, then a forced laugh. I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about. Really, because I have credit card receipts, hotel records, photographs, and about 6 hours of recorded phone conversations that say otherwise. The laugh died. What do you want? A conversation, face to face. Tonight, 7 o'clock, Finnegan's Bar on Oak Street. Come alone. And if I don't, then tomorrow morning, your wife gets a very interesting package in the mail, along with your boss, your pastor, and everyone on the country club membership list. I hung up before he could respond. Finnegan's was perfect for what I had in mind. Public enough that Eli couldn't try anything stupid, but not so crowded that our conversation would be overheard. Monica was working that night, which meant I had backup if things went sideways. Eli arrived at exactly 7 o'clock, looking like a man walking to his execution. Gone was the confident corporate executive I'd met at the Christmas party. This version was sweaty, nervous, constantly checking his phone. You look upset, I said as he slid into the booth across from me. Cut the shit. What do you want? Nothing complicated. I want you to end the affair, transfer to another division, and stay away from my wife. And if I don't, I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo I'd taken outside the Riverside Hotel. Him and Olivia, locked in an embrace that left no room for misinterpretation. Then your wife sees this, along with the hotel receipts, the text messages, and the recording I made of you two in the parking lot last Thursday. His face went gray. You recorded us? Audio only. But it's very clear, especially the part where you talk about how stupid I am, and how easy it's going to be to take me for everything in the divorce. I never said that. Didn't you? Memory's a funny thing. Sometimes we remember what we meant to say instead of what we actually said. Eli stared at me for a long moment, and I could see him trying to calculate his options. Finally, he leaned forward. How much? Excuse me? How much money do you want? Everyone has a price. I almost laughed. Even now, faced with the collapse of his carefully constructed life, he thought this was just another business negotiation. I don't want your money, Eli. I want your complete and total humiliation. What? You see, I've been thinking about this all wrong. I was focused on saving my marriage, protecting my assets, all that practical stuff. But then I realized something important. I leaned back in the booth, enjoying the fear in his eyes. I don't want to save my marriage. Olivia showed me who she really is, and I believe her. What I want is for both of you to understand exactly what it feels like to be underestimated. You're insane. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just tired of being treated like I'm stupid. I stood up, dropping a 20 on the table for my untouched beer. You've got until tomorrow night to decide. End it clean, or I end it dirty. Your choice. I was halfway to the door when he called after me. Wait, what about Olivia? What are you going to do to her? I turned back, smiling for the first time in weeks. Olivia's punishment is going to be much worse than yours. What do you mean? She's going to have to live with the fact that she underestimated her boring, blue-collar husband. And that mistake is going to cost her everything. Eli didn't call the next day. I hadn't expected him to. Men like him don't fold at the first sign of pressure. They double down, convinced they can outsmart their way out of any situation. And that was fine. I was counting on his arrogance. And instead of calling me, he called Olivia. I know, because I'd cloned her phone to mine the day after I'd discovered the affair. Every text, every call, every email came through to my device in real time. Brian knows, was the first message. How much? Was Olivia's reply. Everything. Photos, recordings, receipts. He wants me to end it. What did you tell him? Nothing. But we need to move fast. File for divorce, claim domestic abuse, get a restraining order, make it look like he's the unstable one. Already talked to my lawyer. She says we need evidence of erratic behavior. I can provide that. What about the money? Offshore account is ready. Once the divorce is final, we can disappear. I read their exchange with the detached interest of someone watching a chess game where I could see all the pieces. They were so focused on their elaborate plan that they couldn't see the simple trap I was laying. The beauty of it was that they were going to destroy themselves. Friday evening, Olivia came home early for the first time in months. She found me in the living room, watching the news, a beer in my hand, and a stack of legal documents on the coffee table. We need to talk, she said. Do we? Because I thought I was too stupid to understand sophisticated conversation. She sat down across from me, and I could see her shifting into negotiation mode. This was Olivia at her most dangerous, calm, calculating, ready to say whatever she thought I wanted to hear. I know you're hurt. I know I handled this badly. But maybe this is for the best. We've been growing apart for years. Have we? Or have you just been planning your exit strategy? It doesn't have to be ugly, Brian. We can divide everything fairly, stay friends, move on with our lives. I gestured to the legal documents. Funny you should mention that. I've been doing some reading about divorce law. Did you know that adultery affects asset division in this state, especially when marital funds were used to support the affair? Her mask slipped slightly. What are you saying? I'm saying you might not get as much as you think you will. Brian, be reasonable. You can't prove anything. I picked up my phone and hit play on an audio file. Her voice filled the room, crystal clear. He's clueless. He spends all day playing with his little gadgets. He has no idea what real ambition looks like. The color drained from her face. Where did you get that? From the house you've been living in for 3 years. The house where I installed microphones in every room. The house where you've been planning my destruction while I paid for your affair. She stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. You recorded me without consent. That's illegal. Is it? In my own home? I should probably ask a lawyer. Maybe yours. I'm sure she'd love to hear about the offshore accounts. Olivia spun around. What offshore accounts? The ones you and Eli have been discussing. The ones where you're planning to hide marital assets after you frame me for domestic abuse. The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Finally, she laughed, but it sounded forced. You're paranoid, Brian. There are no offshore accounts. Then you won't mind if I have a forensic accountant take a look at our finances? You can't afford a forensic accountant. Maybe not, but my sister can. Did I mention Monica's engaged to a CPA? He's very interested in financial fraud cases. It was a lie, but Olivia didn't know that. I watched her process this new information, saw the moment she realized her carefully laid plans were unraveling. What do you want? She asked finally. I want you to pack your things and leave, tonight. I want you to end the affair, quit your job, and disappear from my life completely. And if I don't? I stood up, walked to the window where she was standing, and looked her directly in the eyes. Then tomorrow morning, I release everything. The photos, the recordings, the financial records. Your boss, your friends, your family, everyone at the country club. They all get to see exactly who you really are. You wouldn't. Try me. We stood there for a long moment, two people who had once promised to love each other forever, now calculating how much damage we could inflict. I'll need time to find a place, she said finally. You have until Sunday. After that, I change the locks and donate everything you leave behind to charity. She nodded slowly, then headed for the stairs. Halfway up, she turned back. You know, Brian, I really did underestimate you. Yes, I said, you did. Olivia left Saturday morning while I was at Monica's, taking only what she could fit in her BMW. She left behind the designer clothes, the expensive jewelry, the collection of art she'd insisted we needed to look sophisticated. All the props that had been so important to her identity, abandoned like costume pieces after the show had ended. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt empty. You did the right thing, Monica said, as we sat on her porch, watching the neighborhood kids play in the street. She was poison, Brian. You're better off without her. I know. It's just 7 years. How do you just throw away 7 years? You don't throw them away. You learn from them. And what you learned is that you're stronger than you thought. Maybe she was right. But strength felt a lot like loneliness from where I was sitting. My phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number. but I recognized the writing style immediately. This isn't over. You think you're so smart, but you have no idea what you've started. Eli has friends, connections. We'll destroy you. I showed the message to Monica. She read it twice, then shook her head. She still doesn't get it, does she? She still thinks this is about power and connections. What do you think it's about? Truth. And the truth is, you're not the same man she married. You're not going to just roll over and take it anymore. She was right, but not in the way she thought. The truth was, I wasn't done yet. Sunday evening, I was in my workshop when the doorbell rang. Through the security camera, I could see Eli Grant standing on my front porch, looking like he hadn't slept in days. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. "She's gone," he said without preamble. "I know. She won't return my calls, won't answer my texts. It's like she vanished. Maybe she has. This is your fault. You destroyed everything." I leaned against the doorframe, studying this man who had spent months mocking me, using me, planning my destruction. Did I? Or did I just stop pretending I didn't know what was happening? You don't understand. I love her. No, you don't. You love the idea of her, the excitement, the secrecy, the feeling of getting away with something. But love doesn't involve destroying innocent people for fun. I never meant to hurt you. Yes, you did. You both did. You just thought I was too stupid to fight back. He stared at me for a long moment, and I could see him trying to find some angle, some way to salvage the situation. What if I could make this right? Compensate you for the inconvenience? There it is again. You think everything has a price, doesn't it? Not everything, Eli. Some things, dignity, self-respect, the satisfaction of watching arrogant people get exactly what they deserve, those things are priceless. I stepped back and started to close the door. Wait, what am I supposed to tell my wife? My kids? Tell them the truth. Tell them you're exactly the kind of man who would destroy a marriage for sport and then come begging when the consequences catch up with you. You're going to ruin my life. No, Eli. You already did that. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it. I closed the door and watched through the security camera as he stood there for another minute, probably hoping I'd change my mind. Finally, he walked back to his Tesla and drove away. I never saw him again. 3 months later, I was installing a security system for a new client when Monica called with news. "You're not going to believe this," she said. "Remember Ashley Chen, Olivia's friend from work? The one who wanted to throw me under the bus? That's her. She was in the bar last night, drunk off her ass, telling anyone who would listen about how Olivia screwed her over." "How so?" "Apparently when Olivia quit her job, she took a bunch of client files with her. Proprietary information, trade secrets, the works. Ashley got fired because she was Olivia's friend and they assumed she was in on it." "Was she?" "Probably. But that's not the best part. Ashley also said Eli got demoted after his wife found out about the affair. Lost his corner office, his company car, half his salary. Word is, his wife's taking him for everything in the divorce. I should have felt satisfied. Justice served, karma delivered, all that. Instead, I just felt tired. "Brian, you still there?" "Yeah, I'm here, just thinking." "About what?" "About how none of this brings back the 7 years I wasted. None of this makes me trust people again. None of this fixes what they broke." "Maybe not," Monica said quietly, "but it proves something important." "What's that?" "That when someone underestimates you, it's their mistake, not your weakness." And she was right, of course. She usually was. 6 months after Olivia left, I was a different man. Not bitter, exactly, but harder. More careful, less willing to assume the best about people. And I sold the house. Too many memories, too many hidden cameras I'd installed to catch a cheating wife. Bought a smaller place across town. Started over with new routines, new habits, new ways of being alone. The business was thriving. Word had gotten around about my attention to detail, my ability to see things other people missed. Turns out, the skills you develop catching an unfaithful spouse translate pretty well to security consulting. I was working late in my new workshop when I found the letter. It had been forwarded from my old address, no return address, postmarked from somewhere in Florida. "Brian," it began, "I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I needed to say this. You were right about everything. About me, about Eli, about what we were doing to you. I told myself it was love, but it was just selfishness. I destroyed the best thing in my life because I thought I deserved better. I was wrong. I hope someday you can forgive me. I hope someday you can be happy again. You deserve that. You always did. Nod, Olivia. I read the letter twice, then walked to the fireplace and dropped it into the flames. Watched the paper curl and blacken and disappear into smoke. Forgiveness was a luxury I couldn't afford. Not because I was angry. The anger had burned out months ago. But because forgiveness implied that what happened was somehow acceptable, understandable, forgivable. It wasn't. Some betrayals are too complete, too calculated, too cruel to be forgiven. Some people reveal themselves so completely that there's no going back, no pretending you didn't see what you saw. Olivia had shown me exactly who she was, and I believed her. As for being happy again, maybe someday. But happiness built on the ruins of trust is a fragile thing, and I'd learned the hard way that fragile things break. Better to be alone and whole than together and broken. Better to be underestimated than to be the one doing the underestimating. Better to be the man who sees clearly than the man who pretends not to see at all. I turned off the lights in my workshop, locked the door, and went inside to my empty house. Tomorrow I would get up, go to work, build systems designed to catch people in lies. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was the life I'd earned, and unlike my marriage, it was built on truth.